So why is it helpful? Just like I mentioned before, we have the refund statute expiration date. You only have so long to collect on a refund. So it's very important if you have back taxes that the transcript is analyzed. And by that, I don't mean we're just reading and being like, oh, that's nice. You need somebody that knows what they're doing to be alongside you to go through that to see, oh my goodness, you have $3,000 here that hasn't been applied to the debt. We need to hurry up and claim this before the expiration date.
Welcome to the Tax Relief with Timalyn Bowens podcast. Are you behind on taxes? Is the IRS threatening you or your business? Are you overwhelmed and confused about how to resolve your tax issues? Let's join Timalyn as she explains your options and how she may be able to help. Timalyn Bowens is America's favorite EA.
Hey family, it is time for episode 7. Today we're going to talk about tax transcripts and what you should know. When I work with a client and we're looking at all these nasty IRS penalties and these back taxes, we always start with a transcript analysis. And it's an investigation. And I usually get the question, why do I need my tax transcript? Why is this even helpful? And how do we go ahead and request that information from the IRS? So I'm going to answer all of those questions today in episode 7. So first things first, what is a tax transcript? So when you file your tax return, that's what you are reporting to the IRS and saying, hey, this is my financial story for this tax year. Well, guess what? You know how when you go to an event with a friend or family member and then you go somewhere else and you're both telling the story? Sometimes your stories don't always match up. That's what happens when you file your taxes sometimes. You may have sources of income that you forgot to leave off. You may also have sources of income that were reported that you didn't actually receive. So on the tax transcript, the IRS lets you know everything that was reported to them as income, everything that may be a potential deduction. And remember, it's what was reported to them. You may have additional deductions that they don't know about yet. But when you owe the IRS, it is so important to get this tax transcript because we want to make sure that we're not blindsided by any information that the IRS has that you don't have, but we also need it so we can verify the amount that you actually owe. The IRS makes mistakes every day. I recently helped a tax client, and when I say tax client, I mean tax prep. Her and her husband paid their balance, but yet they were getting letters say that they still owed that balance plus interest. What happened was when they made their payment online, the payment only connected to her social security number and not her husband's as well, even though they're on the same tax account. So the IRS mistake caused my client to almost have a heart attack because they thought they owed additional money. So you never want to take the IRS word for it when they send a letter to say that you owe an amount, because when you look at your transcript, you may very well find out you don't owe that at all. And it's easier to use that transcript to back up your findings and prove that you don't owe this. So the tax transcript, there are different kinds. There is the wage and income transcript. If you can't find your W-2s, you can't find 1099s, you need your wage and income transcript to prepare an accurate return. So for example, once you go in and you get that wage and income transcript, you'll have copies of any 1098s. If you're not familiar with that form name, 1098s are interest statements. So if you have mortgage interest paid, if you have student loan interest paid, those come on 1098s. Now, during the pandemic, a lot of people picked up side gigs, and a lot of people forgot about the side gigs that they did. When you get your wage and income transcript, you see all of the 1099s that are attached to your social security number that were reported and sent in to the IRS. This is very important because when you send in your return, if the IRS is going through to make sure you reported everything and you didn't, guess what happens? A love letter. But it's not going to be too lovely when you find out the IRS adjusted your return. The other thing is a return transcript. This transcript shows you everything that you put on your return. So when people ask for copies of the return from the IRS, it's not going to come out on a sheet and say 1040. It's going to actually look like, how many people remember back when there was not Microsoft Word, but before that, Notepad, and everything kind of looked like code? That's kind of what your tax return transcript is going to look like. So it may be a little difficult for you to translate, but if you are working with an educated tax professional, they can read that and be able to translate for you. The next kind is an account transcript, and this is one of the most powerful transcripts that we have. The reason being, we can find out information about when you filed your return. We can find out if there was a refund due for that year, how long you have to collect that refund, and if you have back taxes, which, let's be honest, the majority of you listening to this probably do. The account transcript is so powerful because it lets us know how much longer the IRS has to collect on this. It's also going to make us aware of any tolling events. You want to be very careful with tolling events. If you file bankruptcy, if you're going through a divorce, any of those situations can give the IRS extra time to collect from you for back taxes. So why is it helpful? Just like I mentioned before, we have the refund statute expiration date. You only have so long to collect on a refund. So it's very important, if you have back taxes, that the transcript is analyzed. And by that, I don't mean we're just reading and being like, oh, that's nice. You need somebody that knows what they're doing to be alongside you, to go through that, to see, oh my goodness, you have $3,000 here that hasn't been applied to the debt. We need to hurry up and claim this before the expiration date. Same with the collection statute expiration date. I've worked with clients who have owed $100,000, $115,000, but guess what? When they got in a better position to where they could make payments on that, I had them wait. Now you may be thinking, why in the world would you have them wait? They're going to go to jail and all these bad things that could happen. If you're working with somebody that knows what they're doing, you know when to wait and you know when you need to get this done right away. Now, I was in their position for them, so I was able to relay the message. We're looking at the CSED, which is the collection statute expiration date. And if we wait, you have about 6 months until $32,000 of this falls off. So I didn't have them not open IRS letters. I'm not telling you to do that. I didn't have them stop any communication for the account. And when I say stop communication, I mean I didn't have them go ghost on me because I was in their position. So I was talking to the IRS for them. What I did was I requested more time to turn in financial information. And in doing so, we were able to hold off until the amount that I mentioned fell off. So instead of paying on that initial amount they had, let's say it was $115, okay, just to make matters easier. Instead of paying on that $115, now they're paying on $85 because we looked at the tax transcripts, figured out what the collection statute expiration date was, and made sure that we were strategic in setting up that payment plan. Now, tolling events. You have to look at the transcript before any type of negotiation with the IRS. I've worked with bankruptcy attorneys. I have worked with divorce attorneys. Typically, the IRS is going to have 10 years from the time that the tax is assessed to collect. However, if we have a tolling event, let's say you filed bankruptcy. During the time that the bankruptcy is being filed, the IRS cannot collect on those taxes. So they have a pause of about, let's say, 6 months. Well, when you're done with the bankruptcy and now all is well with the world again, the IRS is going to take that 6 months that they couldn't collect on any tax debt that couldn't go into bankruptcy, and they're just going to attach that to your original collection statute expiration date. Okay, so you want to be very mindful of your tolling events because you don't want to get to the end of 10 years and be like, woo, I'm free. And then the IRS come in and swoop, cleans out the bank account. All right. So there are a few ways that you can make an IRS tax transcript request. You can create an account at irs.gov and you can actually pull them yourself. You can pull the different types of transcripts, the record of account, the wage and income transcript, the return transcript. Or if you can't verify yourself online, they will mail your transcripts to the last address that they have on file. But here's the thing. If you have a book that tells you how to run your business and it'll make you $1 million if you read this book, how useful is that book if you don't know how to read? There is so much power in the transcripts, but if you read them incorrectly, all of the power is gone, which is why it is so important to have someone on your side to make sure that you are getting these read correctly. So what I do, and again, you all know I'm here to help you out. I'm America's favorite EA, and that's why I'm here to educate you. Hey, family. Every now and then I make a mistake on the podcast. When I made a reference to the episode for self-employed taxpayers, I said episode 5, but I really meant episode 6. In episode 6, I gave 5 tips for self-employed taxpayers. So charge my head, not my heart. Thanks for listening. But going back to an example I used in the last episode, episode 5, with the tips for self-employed taxpayers, just because you can do something doesn't mean that you should. This is something that I hands down say you need a tax professional to help you analyze the transcript, because we are already going to know what to look for tolling events. We're going to already know what to look for to make sure that you got the stimulus payments, or that you got, well, if you even qualify for the stimulus payments, but we're going to see the different codes on the transcript to see what letters the IRS has already sent you. Because here's an argument I hear often. Well, they cleaned out my account and I didn't know. But then I pull the tax transcript and I see the date they sent the intent to levy. I see the date that they sent the demand for payment. And there are situations where the IRS doesn't follow due process and we may potentially be able to get that money back. But if it's already noted and we can see the days that they sent you those things, then yeah, you basically made a straw house that's going to get blown away. So before you go to the IRS, you need to know everything they have on file about your case, okay? You can't effectively negotiate with them if you don't know what you're dealing with. And that's why when you work with my team, we always start with a transcript analysis investigation so that we know what we're dealing with. We can come back to tell you, and we can find the best solution that's going to work for your cash flow and satisfy the IRS without you having to cry at night because you don't have any money, right? So if you're interested in working with me and my team to get the investigation done, just because you don't know where to start, you don't even know what's real, you can go to bowenstaxsolutions.com and go to the book now. As of right now, you'll see the calendar and you'll find a day that works for me, you, or one of my team members. But we are moving to an application process just to make sure that we are able to efficiently serve everybody that we work with. You don't want to wait though, because you will be hurt with penalties, interest, and all other kinds of fees. All other kinds of fees if you don't get in there with a transcript and actually know what's going on so that you can take action. So, if you have any questions or comments, if this is a subject that you found really helpful, I want you to go to americasfavoriteea.com and I want you to go to contact us. Send me your feedback. Let me know if this was helpful. And until next time, I need you to stay out of tax trouble. I'd like to thank you for taking the time to listen today. I'd like to thank Jim Ray Consulting Services for helping me get this message out to you. I hope you found the information helpful. Did you know 1 in 50 people have a tax problem? Please share this episode with your friends and family because you never know who may need help. Again, thanks for listening. Hey, just as a reminder, this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only. It provides a framework and possible solutions for solving your tax problems, but it is not legally binding. Please consult your tax professional regarding your specific tax situation.